you know, compliance, it's kind of like the backbone of any ethical business,
There
right?
you go, man.
But have you ever thought about the people who, actually make sure all those compliance measures are like really working?
Hmm.
Today we're diving deep into this world of the second line of defense,
Oh,
the 2LOD, to, figure out how they actually provide that critical oversight.
right.
And we're not just talking theory here. We've
Yeah.
got a seasoned expert with us, actually.
So-
Someone who's designed and implemented these frameworks across like all sorts of industries. So
Yeah, I've seen a lot.
yeah, to give us, the real scoop from the inside.
Happy to be here. Excited to dive in. I think it's a world that a lot of people find mysterious,
Right.
shrouded in jargon,
Yeah, yeah.
but super important for businesses to operate with integrity.
Okay, let's unpack this a little bit.
Yeah, let's do it.
For someone who, knows the basics of compliance,
Mm-hmm.
but maybe not all the like really detailed stuff, what does the 2LOD actually do?
Oh,
How do
yeah.
they fit into the bigger picture of things?
So imagine a castle
Okay.
with 3 layers of protection.
Okay. Then you
Right. So the first line of defense, the 1LOD, these are like the guards at the gate. Okay.
know. Okay.
They are directly managing the risks in their daily work.
Okay.
So, your sales teams, your frontline workers,
Right.
anyone whose actions could, potentially create risks.
Uh-huh.
The 2LOD, on the other hand, they're like the patrollers on the walls.
Okay.
They're advising,
Okay.
overseeing and testing how well those frontline defenses are holding up.
Okay, so they're not just like coming in
What?
with a checklist and being like, gotcha.
No, not at all.
Okay.
It's much more about providing assurance that the right controls are in place
Right.
and that they're actually functioning as intended.
Okay.
So they are looking for potential gaps, but
Right.
but the goal is to help the 1LOD strengthen their process,
Right.
not to catch them out.
Not to like get them in trouble.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But someone might say that having this extra layer of like oversight
Yeah.
just adds, bureaucracy and slows things down.
Right.
How would you respond to that?
Well, I think it's true that if the 2LOD is done poorly,
Mm-hmm.
it can absolutely feel like just another hoop to jump through.
Right.
But if it's done well, it's more like having strategic advisors,
Okay.
right? Think about it. The 1LOD is so immersed in
Yeah.
their day-to-day operations,
Uh-huh.
they might miss the forest for the trees.
Totally.
The 2LOD, with that broader perspective, they could often spot systemic issues
Okay.
or emerging risks, things that the 1LOD might not even be aware of.
Right. Yeah, they've got like a different vantage point.
Exactly.
Can you give us like a real world example of where that broader perspective was like really helpful?
Absolutely. I worked with a company once that had, a really robust anti-bribery policy,
Okay.
on paper at least.
Right.
The 1LOD, they, diligently followed all the procedures.
Uh-huh.
But we started to notice this pattern of like small gifts being given to clients in a
Okay.
particular region.
Mm.
On its own, each instance seemed, insignificant.
Yeah.
But stepping back, it became clear that this was a systemic issue,
Right.
something that could escalate into a major compliance breach.
Oh, wow.
Right. So by flagging it early,
Yeah.
we were able to help the company, refine their policies, improve the training, and ultimately prevent a potentially disastrous situation.
Wow. So they're kind of like I don't know, like detectives piecing together clues
Right.
to identify these underlying issues
Yeah.
that could have like huge consequences down the road.
I love that analogy. Yeah, it's that ability to see the bigger picture
Right.
that makes the 2LOD such a valuable asset for companies that are really serious about ethical and
Yeah.
compliant operations.
Okay, so we've got the 1LOD kind of on the ground.
Yeah.
We've got the 2LOD providing that oversight and guidance.
Uh-huh.
And you mentioned a third line of defense, right?
Yes. So the third line is like the king's advisor in our chancel analogy.
Uh-huh.
They provide independent auditing
Okay.
right? They come in periodically
Yeah.
to assess how the whole system is working.
Right, right.
We're gonna keep our focus on the 1LOD interaction for this deep dive,
Okay.
but it's important to know that all three lines work together to create this robust risk
Wow.
and compliance environment.
Now you mentioned the 2LOD working with a compliance assurance framework,
Right.
which might sound kind of intimidating to some people.
It can.
And yeah, what does that actually look like in practice?
So it might sound complex,
Mm-hmm.
but it's really about breaking down compliance into manageable steps.
Okay.
So it starts with risk assessment,
Okay.
figuring out what could go wrong,
Right.
where the potential weak spots are,
Uh-huh.
and then you move to the planning phase,
Okay.
developing a strategy for actually checking those risks.
Okay.
And this might involve document reviews,
Yeah.
interviews,
Mm-hmm.
even observing processes in action.
So is that where the actual testing and monitoring happens?
Right.
Does the 2LOD just like come in and start, grilling everyone?
No. It's more collaborative than confrontational. So the 2LOD, they conduct their reviews based on that plan,
Uh-huh.
but they're also looking for open communication and
Right.
feedback from the 1LOD.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But I imagine there can still be some tension, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Especially if the 1LOD feels like they're constantly like under scrutiny.
Right.
What's your take on that dynamic?
Yeah, no, you're spot on. That tension can definitely exist.
Yeah.
And in my experience, one of the biggest hurdles for the 1LOD is fear.
Mm.
Fear of negative findings,
Yeah.
fear of being judged or penalized.
Yeah, yeah.
They might also feel like the review is duplicating work that they've already done,
Right, right.
which can be frustrating.
So how can we like shift that dynamic from feeling like being audited
Yeah.
to like a genuine partnership?
That's the key, right?
Yeah.
And I think transparency is crucial.
Okay.
The more open and honest the 1LOD is with the 2LOD,
Uh-huh.
the more trust is built.
Right.
It's about seeing these reviews not as threats,
Right.
but as opportunities for learning and improvement.
Okay.
And the 2LOD can foster that by clearly communicating their objectives,
Uh-huh.
respecting the 1LOD's time and resources,
Right.
and focusing on providing constructive feedback.
Yeah.
Feedback that leads to real tangible improvement.
That's a great point because I think a lot of people they view compliance as this like
Yeah.
rigid box checking exercise,
Right.
but you're painting a very different picture.
Yeah, it's definitely more nuanced than that.
Right.
There's a human element to compliance. And,
Yeah.
and when done well, the 2LOD can be a valuable partner
Right.
in helping organizations navigate this complex world.
So the 2LD helps identify potential issues, but what happens after those reviews are done?
Okay.
Is it just a matter of like filing a report and moving on?
No, not at all. Once the 2LOD finishes their review,
Uh-huh.
they report back to the 1LOD
Yeah.
with their findings and recommendations.
Okay.
And the key here is that the framework isn't about gotchas.
Okay.
It's about continuous improvement.
Right.
It's about helping the 1LOD, identify areas
Uh-huh.
where they can strengthen their controls
Right.
and make their processes even more robust.
It's like having a coach in your corner.
Yeah,
It's helping you identify those weaknesses
Uh,
and then working with you to like improve.
that's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
It's about partnership
Uh-huh.
and continuous improvement.
Can you give us an example
Yeah, sure.
of how this might like play out in a real world scenario?
So let's say a company has a strong anti-bribery policy.
Okay.
The 2LOD might check to see whether the company's safeguards against bribery are actually working.
Okay.
Right? Are they conducting due diligence on their third-party partners?
Okay.
Are the training programs effective?
Uh-huh.
Are they keeping the right records?
And what if they discover that something isn't quite right?
Well, that's where the feedback and the collaboration come into play.
Okay.
So the 2LOD would work with the 1LOD to understand why that gap exists,
Right.
help them develop a plan to fix it,
Mm.
and then follow up to make sure the issue has been addressed effectively.
Okay, so it's like a continuous cycle
Yeah.
of assessment,
Yep.
feedback,
Right.
and improvement,
Exactly.
all aimed at strengthening the company's overall compliance posture.
You got it.
This is all incredibly insightful. I think we've laid like a good foundation here for understanding, the role of the 2OD
Yeah.
and how they interact with the 1LOD.
Yeah.
Now, you mentioned some unique insights that the 2LOD gains from this work.
Yeah.
I'm curious to hear more about those
Okay. Yeah.
and how they impact the 1LOD.
Absolutely. Well, one of the most valuable things I think we bring to the table is that, that wider lens,
Right.
because we're looking across different departments,
Right.
different processes.
Right.
We can often see, connections and patterns
Yeah.
that might be missed by someone who's, just solely focused on their specific area.
So you're able to like connect those dots and identify
Yeah.
those systemic issues, those like root causes that
Exactly.
might be contributing to, multiple risks
Right.
across the organization.
Precisely. Yeah. And by sharing those insights with the 1LOD,
Uh-huh.
we can help them address the underlying issues, not just, treat the
And
symptoms.
get to the root of it.
Exactly. It's about moving beyond a reactive, check the box approach to compliance and building a proactive, resilient culture.
That makes a lot of sense. But I imagine that even with the best intentions,
Yeah.
there can be challenges from the 2OD's perspective as well.
Oh, for sure.
What are some of the things that make your job particularly tricky?
Well, one of the biggest hurdles we often face is resistance from the 1LOD.
Hmm.
Um, sometimes they feel overwhelmed by audits and reviews,
Yeah.
especially if they've had, negative experiences in the past.
Yeah.
We call this audit fatigue,
Right.
and it can be a real barrier to effective collaboration.
Yeah, it sounds like building trust is really key here.
Absolutely.
How do you navigate that audit fatigue and create a more collaborative environment?
Well, it all comes down to communication and partnership.
Okay.
We need to be upfront about our objectives, involve the 1LOD in the planning process,
Okay.
and make sure they truly understand the value that we're bringing.
Right.
And one way to do this is through something called the Compliance Monitoring Plan,
Okay.
or CMP.
Okay. I've heard that term before, but
Mhm.
I'm not entirely sure what it entails.
Okay.
Can you break it down for us?
So think of the CMP as the roadmap
Okay.
for the 2LOD's work.
Good.
It outlines which areas we're going to focus on,
Uh-huh.
what types of reviews we'll be conducting, and when those reviews will take place.
Mhm.
It's a living document
Okay.
that evolves based on the organization's risk profile and the ever-changing regulatory landscape.
Why is it so important for the 1LOD to understand this roadmap?
Well, because it empowers them to prepare.
Okay.
Right? If they know what we'll be looking at,
Mm-hmm.
they can make sure they have the right information and documentation readily available.
Okay.
It also allows them to anticipate potential areas for improvement and start thinking proactively about how they can strengthen their controls.
So it's less about being caught off guard,
Right.
more about fostering like a sense of shared responsibility and preparedness.
Absolutely. And it also ensures that the 2LOD's efforts are aligned with the organization's overall risk management strategy. Right?
Okay.
The CMP isn't just a gotcha list.
Yeah.
It's a tool for collaboration
Right.
and continuous improvement.
That's a much more constructive way to look at it.
Exactly.
So what are some of the key features of a well-designed CMP?
Well, first and foremost, it should be risk-based,
Okay.
prioritizing areas where where the likelihood or
Mhm.
impact of a compliance failure
Yeah.
is highest.
Okay.
It should also be integrated with other assurance activities,
Okay.
such as external audits
Right.
and regulatory inspections, so we're not duplicating efforts
Right.
or creating unnecessary burdens for the 1LOD.
That makes a lot of sense. It sounds like efficiency and collaboration are like key themes here.
They are.
Yeah.
And increasingly we're seeing the use of data analytics
Okay.
and technology
Yeah.
to streamline the CMP process,
Hmm.
and make it even more effective.
Now, that's an area I'm particularly interested in.
Oh, yeah.
We touched on data analytics earlier, using the example of identifying anomalies in expense reports.
Right.
What are some other ways that technology is being used in the compliance space?
Well, we're seeing companies leverage machine learning algorithms, for instance,
Okay.
to identify patterns
Mm-hmm.
in massive data
Yeah,
sets
okay.
that could signal potential compliance risks.
Okay.
For example, analyzing emails or other communications
Right.
to detect, language that might be suggestive of bribery or collusion.
Wow, that's fascinating.
Yeah.
It sounds incredibly powerful, but also a little bit like something out of like a sci-fi movie.
It's true. The advancements in technology are rapidly changing the landscape of compliance.
Right.
But it's important to remember that technology is a tool, right?
Uh-huh.
It's not a replacement for human judgment.
So it's about using technology to like
Yeah.
augment our capabilities
Right. Yeah.
and make us more effective, not about like handing over the reins completely.
Exactly. Exactly. Technology can help us, analyze vast amounts of data,
Uh-huh.
automate routine tasks,
Okay.
and identify potential risks more efficiently.
Right.
This frees up, compliance professionals to focus on more strategic initiatives,
Okay.
like fostering a strong culture of compliance
Wow.
and providing, guidance and support to the one LOD.
That makes sense. It sounds like technology can be a real game changer for compliance teams.
It definitely has the potential to revolutionize the way we approach compliance.
Yeah.
And speaking of change, there's another uh, significant trend shaping the future of compliance
Okay.
that I think is worth discussing, and that's the increasing emphasis on culture and ethics.
That's an interesting point because we've been, talking a lot about processes and
Right.
frameworks,
Yeah.
but ultimately compliance is about people.
Absolutely. It's no longer enough to simply have, policies,
Right.
procedures in place.
Mhm.
Organizations are realizing that they need to create a culture
Yeah.
where compliance is embedded in everything they do,
Yeah.
where ethical behavior is not just expected,
Hmm.
but ingrained in the very fabric of the organization.
So it's not just about checking boxes. It's about creating a culture where doing the right thing is second nature.
Exactly. And that requires, strong leadership,
Yeah.
clear communication,
Right.
and ongoing training and education.
What role does the 2LOD play in fostering this kind of culture?
Well, we play a vital role in setting the tone and the expectations for ethical conduct,
Okay.
by demonstrating, integrity,
Yeah.
objectivity,
Right.
and a genuine commitment to helping the 1LOD succeed.
Yeah.
We can foster a more collaborative and ethical environment.
Okay.
We can also provide, valuable insights and guidance on how to integrate compliance into the organization's culture.
I can see how that kind of leadership and guidance from the 2LOD could have like a ripple effect
Yeah.
throughout the organization.
It certainly can. And speaking of the bigger picture,
Yeah.
we can't forget about the ever-evolving regulatory landscape.
Right.
There are some major shifts impacting compliance assurance that we need to be aware of.
This is something I've been thinking about a lot lately. It seems like the regulatory environment is becoming increasingly
Oh, yeah.
complex and
Yeah,
demand.
absolutely.
What are some of the key trends that you're seeing?
Well, one of the most significant trends is the move toward more prescriptive regulations,
Okay.
particularly in areas like data privacy and cybersecurity.
So those regulations are becoming more detailed and specific about what companies need to do to comply.
Precisely, and that means compliance professionals need to have a deep understanding of the rules
Mm-hmm.
and how they apply to their organization.
Okay.
They also need to be able to adapt quickly to new regulations
Right.
and implement the necessary controls to ensure ongoing compliance.
It sounds like the role of the compliance professional is becoming increasingly
It is.
complex and demanding.
It is.
What advice would you give to someone who's just starting out in this field?
Well, I would say the most important thing is to be curious.
Okay.
Compliance is a fascinating field, and there's always something new to learn.
So embrace the challenge and never stop learning.
Exactly. Be proactive.
Mm.
Don't wait for someone to tell you what to do.
Mm-hmm.
Stay informed about industry trends,
Okay.
best practices,
Right.
and emerging risks.
So be a thought leader,
Yes.
not just a follower.
Yes. And finally, build relationships.
Okay.
Compliance is a team sport,
Uh-huh.
and you need to be able to work effectively with people across the organization.
Collaborate, communicate, build bridges. It sounds like essential skills for success in any field,
Yeah.
but especially in compliance.
Couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
By by following those tips,
Mhm.
you'll be well on your way to a rewarding
Okay.
and impactful career in compliance.
This has been an incredibly insightful conversation.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing your expertise with us.
My pleasure.
I feel like I have a much deeper understanding of the two LOD's role and the importance of compliance in today's business world.
Well, you're very welcome. I'm glad we could shed some light on this often overlooked but crucial aspect of
Yeah.
ethical business practices.
And on that note, we'll wrap up this deep dive into the world of compliance.
It'll be good.
I hope you found it as informative
Yeah.
and inspiring as I have.
Yeah.
So welcome back to our deep dive into, this world of the 2LOD. We've covered a lot of ground from, understanding their unique role in the three lines of defense
All right.
to how they're, leveraging technology and shaping this more proactive and ethical approach to compliance.
It's been a great conversation,
Yeah.
really highlighting how dynamic and important this field really is.
Before we wrap things up, I wanted to kind of circle back to something you mentioned earlier.
Oh, yeah.
The idea of compliance being like a team sport.
Yeah.
You said everyone in the organization has a role to play in creating that culture of compliance.
Yeah.
What are some practical ways that companies can foster that sense of shared responsibility?
Well, I think it all starts at the top.
Okay.
Leaders, they need to set the tone,
Mhm.
making it crystal clear that compliance is a top priority,
Right.
and that ethical behavior is non-negotiable.
So it's not just about, talking the talk, but walking the walk.
Exactly. Yeah.
Leading by example is crucial.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Employees, they need to see that their leaders are genuinely committed to doing things the right way.
Right.
And it's not just about avoiding, penalties.
Mhm.
It's about doing business with integrity,
Okay.
building trust with customers and partners, and
Mm.
and creating a work environment where everyone feels, safe and respected.
That makes a lot of sense. What about communication? How can companies ensure that everyone, understands their compliance obligations and
Right.
and feels empowered to speak up if they see something, amiss?
Well, communication is key.
Yeah.
Compliance policies and procedures, they need to be clear,
Uh-huh.
concise,
Cool.
and easily accessible.
Right.
No more, burying crucial information in dense legalese,
Oh.
or expecting employees to hunt through, outdated manuals.
So making compliance relevant and accessible to everyone,
Oh, yeah.
regardless of their role, their
Exactly.
level within the organization.
Exactly. Compliance information should be presented in a way that's engaging
Yes.
and relevant to employees' day-to-day work.
Okay.
Think, interactive training modules,
Uh-huh.
regular communication campaigns,
Right.
highlighting real-world examples,
Yeah.
and even using, internal social media platforms
Mhm.
to keep compliance top of mind.
Those are great ideas. It sounds like the goal is to kind of move beyond that once a year compliance training,
Right.
and make it a continuous part of the organizational dialogue.
Precisely, yeah. And it's not just about, formal training programs.
Mhm.
Companies can encourage a speak-up culture
Okay.
through informal channels as well, like
Right.
team meetings,
Right.
newsletters, and,
Yeah.
and even, casual conversations.
Okay.
It's about making it clear that compliance is everyone's responsibility,
Yeah.
and that raising concerns is not only encouraged but
Uh-huh.
valued.
What about accountability?
Yeah.
How do we strike that balance
Uh-huh.
between, fostering this positive, supportive environment
Yeah.
and ensuring that there are consequences for non-compliance?
That's a great question, and I think it's important to remember that that accountability doesn't always have to be punitive, right?
Right.
It's also about recognizing and rewarding uh, ethical behavior.
Okay.
When employees see that doing the right thing is valued and appreciated,
Yeah.
they're more likely to make ethical choices.
So it's about creating that positive reinforcement loop,
Yeah.
celebrating those who embody the company's values,
Right.
and making it clear that
Yeah.
that ethical behavior is the norm,
Yeah.
not the exception.
Exactly. It's also crucial to have clear and consistent consequences for non-compliance.
Right.
This doesn't necessarily mean jumping to disciplinary action for every minor infraction.
Right. Right.
But it does mean having a fair and transparent process for addressing violations.
That makes a lot of sense. It's about creating a culture where compliance is seen as a shared responsibility,
Yes.
where everyone understands the importance of ethical behavior,
Yeah.
and where both positive and negative reinforcement are used to shape that culture.
You've summed it up perfectly. By taking these steps, companies can create a culture of compliance
Mm,
that is not only effective
yeah.
but also sustainable.
This has been an incredibly insightful conversation. Thank you so much for sharing your expertise with us.
Oh, my pleasure. It's been a great conversation.
Before we go, is there one final thought you'd like to leave our listeners with?
I would say this. Compliance is not just about following, rules.
Mm.
It's about doing the right thing,
Okay.
even when it's hard.
Yeah.
It's about operating with integrity, building trust,
Right.
and making a positive impact on the world.
Well said. And on that note, we'll wrap up this deep dive into the world of the 2O load.
Sounds good.
I hope you found it as informative and inspiring as I have.
Yeah, me too.
Remember, compliance is a journey,
Yes.
not a destination. And by working together, we can create a business world where ethics and integrity are at the forefront.
I agree.
Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.